Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be getting into a little bit about New World and some of the features that they've been implementing lately that we find to be such a disagreement of, especially with their store purchases that they have going on right now. And what we're going to be diving into today is going to be that regarding that specifically. So without further ado, let's crack straight into it. And this is IPP My Kids IRL, and today I'm going to be joined by,
This is our Chubulus.
This is Raging Z.
and let's get right into it.
Kind of jumping into some of the news kind of surrounding New World and the cash shop. I think everybody's kind of, if anybody's tuned into Kira TV, kind of looked up on MMORPG, you'll probably find an article kind of talking a little bit about the some news regarding the indie, like some stuff kind of discussed on an NDA under NDA forum. Discussing a little bit about the cash shop and kind of what all could be kind of entailing there. I think there's, it's not uncommon to have cash shops in any MMO. You see them in Star Wars: The Old Republic, you see them in Final Fantasy, you see them in WoW, you see them in a lot of popular MMOs. So
Everywhere. They're everywhere.
Every
it's
game.
the money, baby, the
Every
money.
game.
And that's basically where we're at with this. Is I think it all comes down to the money. And so when you look at a game that you're paying a flat fee for, I feel like everybody should start off kind of on equal playing field. And I think what's kind of a hot topic right now is discussing convenience boosts, level boosts, and I think that's a big problem, kind of starting off with that. I think that they kind of came out and kind of clarified a little bit, saying that there's going to be any boost at the beginning of the game. So nothing kind of there at the beginning of the game. So probably eventually, but I think it takes a lot of enjoyment out of the game whenever, in my personal opinion, and maybe echoed by the others, kind of. I think there's definitely some pros and cons. I think it'll develop you in a unique look if you feel like paying money for maybe some cosmetics. You might see some quality of life changes. Being able to buy a bag in the inventory, or kind of, I feel like though where it's going to kind of where it pulls from is diverting resources to kind of pack out this cash shop in order to versus putting more content in the game. I think Kira TV might have kind of touched on that a little bit, and I completely agree with him.
But
It
also,
definitely generates revenue for the game, but it increases longevity. But you worry about quality content versus an overabundance of just
That's right.
purely cosmetic features, and I feel like that's a big problem. I think one of my peers can probably chime in on this as well.
so relating this back to Conan Exiles, for instance, Conan Exiles did it a little bit right, in my opinion. Now, I can honestly say that the diverting resources thing takes a big part in Conan Exiles, for instance, where a lot of the resources were diverted to making these skin packs for, I think they made 10 before they even made their first secondary map, for instance. And a lot of those cosmetic features on the cosmetics, for instance, were fine. They didn't have any impact in the game besides maybe the temperature changes, and there was a stat difference, only in a slight variation, but you could still get the armor bonuses from different sets in the game through the dungeons. It wasn't too much of an effect. You see, nowadays we're just focused on getting the least effective cash shop bonuses into a game. We saw it with Fallout 76. Everyone was already skeptical about that game. They really did not want to see it put into the game, but they knew it was going to be put into the game. So what they had to deal with is the game going to have effects on the PvP situation side of things, and is it going to be a bonus that's going to be big enough to affect the gameplay aspects of the game? And the first event that came out, it was like a foreskin feature, where if you had all of the skins, you got a stat bonus. The forums instantly lit up. Everyone showed hatred towards Bethesda for already bringing this out when the game was already in an unplayable state. Completely unplayable, and they're coming out with these things in the shop as if they had them already lined up. I kind of touched on this in other games, for instance, like my past Evil Genius review, where we went into stuff that should already just be in the game. This stuff should just be in the game and should be readily available. We're so sick and tired of paying $60, $50, $40 for something that maybe should already be in the game already, whether it should be grindable or different things like that, that you shouldn't see these types of things being bought as an expense rather than just earning them through normal gameplay. People are going to come to the game. You're going to have a higher audience retention, for instance, with WoW. Even them, they are getting less player base, but their store has generated so much revenue, they are turning a profit now. That's unbelievable that you would consider losing your player base in terms for more cosmetic interest. I
It's
just
all
don't really
about
see the
that
point in
money.
that. You can go ahead.
No, it's all about that money, and it's really disappointing to hear about how early we are with this game. The game hasn't even released. We're still close to about, well, actually, we're 3 months out still, and we are already catching wind of certain things that won't necessarily be at launch, but there's no telling when in the future it's going to be released. And according to MMORPG.com, they released an article on this where they go into detail and they talk about how there was an update from Amazon Studios about this, and where they say, and you need to really look at the language that they used here when they were addressing this, because again, they say not at launch. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be later in the game. Now, what that tells us is that maybe a year or two, maybe even a little bit longer than that, we're going to start seeing possible boost to leveling. So that could be increased experience gains. That could be, or an instant level up. So you can go from a level 1 to a max level just with the swipe of your credit card. And what that's going to mean is you've got less of an investment in the game. And what I mean by that is you're gonna feel more invested if you were to if you were to grind up that extra character through the normal avenues of the game, through the leveling process, however way you can level that character up, versus just paying. Because when you get to the end game, it's just not the same. It's the same as if you were to buy a cosmetic off the shop versus earning one in game. It cheapens the value of that experience, and so it's not going to be good for the longevity of the game. And it just really questions whether what's going to be talked about that you can eventually buy coming up. If they're already talking about boost, do I think it's going to be as bad as like BDO, for instance, or maybe Elyon that's coming out soon? Not necessarily, but it's very possible we could be seeing something very similar to that. And it makes me question what in the future we can expect.
It also plays back to the World of Warcraft thing that I've been seeing that I had no idea was a big thing, was the mount offs that people would have. People would just sit around and get on top of mounts that have been around for so long. Like if you had some sort of unique mount, I saw Asmongold doing this one day, and they had a mount off to see who could have the most mounts. I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. Then when I started looking at it, I was like, that's really what people enjoy doing, is grinding for these cosmetics. People want to grind for the cosmetics in the game. They're investing in it. I saw that and I was like, that seems foolish to me. I would never put in the time for that. But for someone who plays the game and enjoys what the game is about, I feel like that is owed to the players to have something to grind like that for. That seems not worth it to another player, but to the people dedicated to the game, it shows what the game is about. And that's another aspect of New World and different games nowadays. You're seeing probably less of that in World of Warcraft now we only played it up until maybe about level 20 and 30, and we didn't see too much at the end game. But in that time though, we already saw just how much was already invested into the cash shop. You can just buy mounts straight up from like level 1, and we had never even played the game before, and we could pretty much buy a mount. So that did diminish the return on what we would be investing our time into in the game.
I think I could touch a little bit on going back to kind of what Chubbs was talking about and touching on personal experiences investing in your characters. I can't tell you how many times like I've jumped into a game like Guild Wars 2 and had a character initially, and I classified it. Everybody's got their main and everybody's got their side characters, and it's like I boosted all of my side characters like up to max level with whatever the boost is, and I just felt like I had no investment in them. I never played the story with them. I never, had those cool, enjoyable leveling experiences with any of the people that I played with, the community. And instead, I feel like it just, going and flying through a game solo and just picking up a character, boosting it to 70, 80, 90, whatever the max level is. I mean, it's just so boring. And I mean, part of the MMO is the journey. And I mean, part of any game is the process and like actually enjoying the content. And I mean, if you can't do that and you have to subject yourself to boosting yourself and getting to in game in order to enjoy things with your friends, I might understand that, but I feel like you're going to quickly fall out because you don't have any sort of bond to that game, and I feel like you're not going to enjoy it the same as your friends.
Exactly.
That's right. And just really quick note here, this is where we could actually make a separate video on this, but it's just talking about the payment models of just the cash shop and versus the monthly subscription fees that really MMOs have in front of them for just making money. With Ashes of Creation coming out with a cash shop and then a no box no no barrier entry really with no front cost on the disc to own the game, but you have a monthly subscription fee. And then you have games like Amazon where there's no monthly subscription with a cash shop but with a box cost. What that tells you is they're not really looking to keep players around as much as they would like to, because they're wanting players to just get to the end game, enjoy it, and be done with it. Versus it incentivizes Ashes of Creation to keep players as long as possible, so that they keep playing the monthly subscription fee, so they stay around longer. When you have less boost in the game, like what Amazon is already hinting towards, players aren't going to be as invested as much as possible, so that they will not pay the monthly subscription, and so that's why it doesn't really fit for a New World with the direction that they're going.
Yeah, and kind of with that, guys, we're kind of going to wrap it up here. We don't really see much effort being put in by Amazon to create additional content for the game as it currently stands. But with that, though, please let us know what you'd like to see more in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is IPVP My Kids IRL signing off.
This is Sir Chubulus.
This is Raging Sleep.
Stay frosty, MMOers.